section 1 of the 3 characteristics of a successful interview is preparation. So I'm sure you all feel you're doing sort of preparation, you're sort of researching and different things. But what should you think about when it comes to preparing for your interview? So I seem to have a bit of a lag on my slides, as always. Okay, so preparation. So really think about 4 areas when you're thinking about preparing. So I'm sure you're always, obviously, if you've applied for a job, you've done some research into the company, you know, seen the role profile, you'll sort of be aware of that. But if you've got an interview, you know, really think about going deeper into that. So, you know, what is there on the news coming up about that company? You know, is there anything that's coming up in the industry? Obviously, COVID has affected a lot of industries quite significantly. Is there anything, you know, has this company been doing anything different? Which might give you a good question to ask them at the end of the interview. So really sort of do some in-depth sort of research about the role as well, the role profile, because that's going to be giving you some hints on what type of questions are going to be coming up in your interview. So when next section is about studying, so really have a look at that role profile. You know, it might be a couple of pages long, you know, 3 pages long, divided into sections, but within this should be the key to at least, you know, maybe 30% of the questions they're going to ask are going to be related to what comes up in the interview. So, you know, really think about anticipating some of the questions. So if it talks a lot about, you know, responsibility for others or technical skills, you can guarantee there's going to be, you know, maybe 1 question around those areas. And I've put sell yourself. Obviously that's easier said than done when you're quite nervous, but often when I was interviewing, I used to find often that people become their sort of most modest selves in interviews, and they talk very much about we and the team, and you know, we did this and we did that, and we would often have to press them to say, okay, that's great, the team did this, but what was your specific role? So if you think about the I, not the we, when you are presenting, that's going to be really key. And another thing that I did when I had my sort of senior interviews is I actually practiced the answers. Now you can do this in front of a mirror, but I think actually what's most useful is actually video yourself. So video, we've all got cameras on your phones, video yourself, and it can be quite awkward watching yourself back, but actually you might pick out areas that you've missed, or perhaps, you know, in hindsight, having watched it back, you might have focused a bit more on a certain area. So that's my top tip for you. And also it gets you into the practice, you know, it's that sort of brain memory of answering that type of question. And we'll talk a bit about that later in terms of structuring your answers. I've talked about, I'm going to talk in a bit, you guys asked for sort of more stuff on sort of video interviews and Zoom interviews, so I'll make sure we're covering that. But please, please, please practice your tech. Don't be the person that can't log into their own interview. And finally, you know, really visualize. I think, you know, CNAP will talk a lot about this, but, you know, really visualizing yourself within that interview and thinking about, you know, the feelings and who's going to be in front of you and what you're going to wear, and, you know, takes away some of the nerves because you sort of almost, you've run through it in your mind already.